Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Youth Be Involved. Um, Today we're going to be talking about something a bit different from the norm, which is our usual political talks and how policies affect everyone in general as it concerns politics. Today we're going to be talking about the economics of politics as it concerns you, a fellow youth here in Nigeria, and we have just the perfect person to help talk more about it. I will let her introduce herself. She's looking so fine today. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Francis. I appreciate it. Okay, yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Dumebi Oduwole, economics analyst. I do macroeconomic research, and I've been doing this for about 3.5 years now.
Okay.
So I have a background in economics from Babcock University. That's my BSc, and a master's degree in economics as well from University of Lagos. So
Shit.
yeah, it's been my thing.
Shit. All right. So sorry, pardon my manners. My name is Francis. I just don't know me. I need to introduce myself. Yeah. Okay. So we'll get right into it. Like I said earlier on, we are going to be looking at the economics of things and how it affects or how certain policies has affected the lives of youths in general. So the first topic we'll be talking about has to do with Procter and Gamble's exit in
Yeah.
Nigeria. So, as an economist, just tell me, what are we to expect? What has been the effects of it, and what are we to expect as it concerns the day-to-day lives of youths in Nigeria?
I mean, I think the starting point would be to actually think about why they left in the first place.
Okay.
So, and the simple answer is just 8 years of wrong policies and 8 years of a very tough macroeconomic environment and tough business environment for businesses to just generally operate in. So companies along the lines of the FMCG industry
Okay.
and health sector have been hardly hit with all of the multiple negative policies that have hit them. So few ones that we can easily pinpoint: the border closure,
Okay.
the FX issues that we did have, capital control measures on FX for FMCGs, and generally just companies getting their goods out of there and even into the country. So policies like that did affect businesses, including Procter and Gamble. And Procter and Gamble actually is not first to exit Nigeria. At least for this year, we've seen GSK leave as well, and some other pharmaceuticals, exit the country. So basically, what this means for the Nigerian economy is that, number one, we've seen the true effect of how a tough operating environment can affect key businesses in the economy, and
Right.
how that would end up affecting the pocket of the common man,
Yeah.
affect disposable income, spending power, and stuff. So that's the first part of things. Then the other side of things is what opportunities this actually presents, because as an economist we try not to be prophets
Look
of
at the
doom and gloom.
negatives.
Yes,
Yeah.
we also try to look at the bright side of
Yeah.
what this means for the economy. So we know the issues that have led to these companies leaving the country.
Okay.
So the question now is, what can we do differently to bring in another set of P&Gs, or even encourage local businesses to take up this to take up or fill in this gap that large multinationals like P&G leaving have created in the economy. And I guess the first thing is, and I always say this, the goal of the government is to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive.
Yeah.
So that is the first step.
Word.
And we've already seen the Tinubu administration actually take up some of these reforms. They are painful, but if we are able to stick to these reforms, the goal is that these reforms will eventually start unlocking productivity. And what does this mean? If you have FX liberalization efforts that we've already put in place, where we no longer have multiple exchange rate systems, we have just one single platform, or sorry, one single market where all FX needs are met. We're not having FMCGs have a blended rate where they're getting 80% of their forex needs from the black market, which is more expensive, and then just about 10 to 20% from the official market. So when we're able to synchronize all of the FX needs, reduce that uncertainty in the FX market, reduce policy uncertainty, we'll start seeing some of the positives in terms of unlocking productivity. There and then, there and then, we would now see that trickle into better employment for people, and then start that would now translate into income, and then we see that translate into consumer spending. So yeah, it's quite a long shot, but the truth of the matter is Nigeria is not the first to actually be in this position. We've
Oh,
seen templates in Asia. China was once like this. Southeast Asian countries in 1997 did experience the exact same thing,
okay.
where they embarked on reforms like allowing their exchange to trade towards its fair value, and they did see even more painful behaviors from investors and speculators.
Right.
So we're clearly in a difficult phase, but it's not a phase that we cannot come out of if we actually stick to these reforms.
Okay.
Because the truth of the matter is, the reforms that we've embarked on, they are supposed to encourage investment into these sectors
All right.
of the economy. So if we stick to them, we should receive the benefits from it. But it's not a 1 year thing.
Right. So, I feel like I've just been taken to school, and I feel like that dollar, that everything just got in here and it came out the other way.
Oh my
But
goodness.
thank you, Prof. But I would actually need you moving forward to
Yeah.
assume that use lighter ways,
Lighter,
or what's
okay.
what's the best adjective
Simpler
to use?
words.
Simpler words.
Okay, I
Dump it down
apologize.
for us, Prof.
Okay, I
So,
will
but
do that.
yes, you did mention a couple of things that I found interesting in what you said, because at the end of it all, there's that balance where politics and economics marry. Because if you vote in the right person, they come in with the right policies, and they make the lives of citizens easier.
Well,
Right.
okay.
Now, you have mentioned, or you made reference to a few things. So you said President Tinubu coming in, that he has started a few things, and
Yes.
that you think will, in the long run,
Yes.
work. I would need you to maybe shed a light or
Shed light
two
on that,
on some
okay.
of them. And research has shown in this administration so far that they have been, and this is me, disclaimer, these are things that are in public domain, so this is not trying to cast aspersions on the government or anything like that. But research has shown that so far there has been certain policies that has been enacted that seemed kind of rushed,
Yeah.
not fully
Yes.
formed or thought
Yes.
out or
Yes.
researched. They just boom, they just threw them out there,
Yes.
and of course they haven't been as successful as we would
Yes.
hope. So maybe you
Yes.
could share some more light on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And this time around, I'll tone it down.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess the simple example to a policy you're referring to is the petrol subsidy removal.
Yes.
Now, what happened is, just from the inauguration ceremony, we just said, subsidy has been removed. To be very honest, it is very right that you're saying, you're very right in saying that it wasn't properly thought through, and the communication was just out of the blue. And we did see how the economy went on a spiral just based off of that news. There were queues at filling stations. Marketers started hoarding just so they could take advantage of higher prices
more profit.
and stuff. So it did happen, and that's where you see economists still saying things like, even though you have the right policies, if you don't communicate them properly, or if you don't communicate them at the right time, it will be misunderstood, because the common man or the average Nigerian might not understand why you're saying what you're saying and the
Right.
benefits that accrue to what you're saying. But still, it doesn't take away from the fact that these reforms, we've clamored for them for a very long time. And here's why. Going back in time, the petrol subsidy is about 46 years old.
True.
And it was just a temporary measure. So subsidies in general, in simple terms, are just, okay, the government decides to say, let me just alleviate your spending a little bit. So meaning that
Temporary
if
fix.
just to ease the burden of your expenditure. So if normally you were supposed to pay 100 naira for a liter of fuel, the government says, okay, you know what, pay 80 naira. I will take the remaining, I'll pay for the remaining, I'll pay the remaining 20 naira. And so that 20 naira that the government is stepping in to pay for you is what we call a subsidy. So that subsidy is just to alleviate spending, just to make sure that the shock of an increase in price doesn't take too much on
Valid.
households, on individuals. So it's not too much for people to bear. But over time, right, that subsidy is supposed to fade away because the expectation is that people should be earning more because the government should be doing a lot more to, improve economic growth. So people are actually employed, they are earning a lot more, and they're able to absorb that 20 naira now. You understand? And then the reason why the government makes that and removes their hand from that subsidy is so that prices are now cost reflective. And what do I mean by cost reflective? If as a company your cost of production is actually 18 naira and that profit that you're supposed to make is 20 naira. So the total price for your product is 100 naira. So you're supposed to be selling, and then your people are now paying 18 naira. So that 20 naira the government is paying is supposed to be going directly to you because that's your profit. So the government will end up removing that. So you are now able to make both your profit and your cost, everything comes directly from the consumer. So that's what I mean by cost reflective pricing. So that's what the temporary subsidy is supposed to eventually, play out into. But in a situation where the government now continued paying this subsidy, we were not now producing enough oil to meet up government revenue. So it was now like the government didn't have enough money to pay the subsidy they're supposed to pay because they were not earning enough. We were still enjoying the subsidy. And unfortunately, the businesses that were producing the oil and supposed to be making this profit, they were no longer making that profit. So it was like businesses were just the oil goons and all tycoons that were, extracting oil and trying to sell, were not actually breaking even. And there's a statistic that Nigeria is actually one of the countries that extracts oil, where our oil extraction is actually one of the most expensive in the world.
The process
I think process of extraction.
Drilling.
Yes. So I think it costs about $25 to extract a barrel of oil. I might be mixing it up here, but compared to Saudi Arabia, where it's about, I think, $10 or even less, about $5. So literally the cost of operation or cost of bringing out the oil is very expensive, and companies are not breaking even because the government is paying a subsidy. And remember that not only are they paying the subsidy on just they are paying the subsidy on the refined petroleum products. So after we actually extract, we now sell this crude oil outside of the country and then import it back. And remember, the exchange rate as well will feed into that price, and we're selling it at a subsidized rate. So basically, removing the fuel subsidy was just one way to tell investors that we want to extract more oil, we want to break even, we want the economy to generate more revenue. So we're removing this subsidy that has made oil production and oil exportation has made it very what's the word now, unattractive to do business in Nigeria. So that's what that removal of fuel subsidy was supposed to do. Make prices more cost reflective so that we have more investment. And guess what? When the expectation for policies like this is that when the subsidy is removed and prices are more cost reflective and it's easier to do business in Nigeria when it comes to oil extraction and sales and exportation, we have more companies coming in, and that we're able to produce more, and then we're able to refine more, and then we're able to sell more, and then when there's an increase in supply, prices reduce.
It all looks good on paper,
Exactly.
So
but then again,
process.
Yes, and that's why I was saying that going through this path of painful reforms is one of the things that's supposed to eventually help the economy. So, right? It's not going to be sweet and savory at the beginning.
I have this follow-up, right?
Yes,
I'm happy we're talking about fuel subsidies and all of that. It's a beautiful thing. Behind the scenes, when we started talking, I told you, I love politics.
Yes.
I don't know why people say they don't love it. It's beautiful. But let's talk about the fuel subsidies and all. So, I call him Babashi, the President Tinubu.
Oh.
Yes, that's what I call him. I call him Babashi. So Babashi comes and he announces the end of subsidies and everything. But there has been some sort of proof that's shown that beyond his verbal proclamations, that they are still paying subsidies.
Yes.
That's one part. And then two, when you were talking about the cost for drilling and extracting oil and why Nigeria seems not to be making enough money from Have you also thought about the fact that we're neck deep in debt as a country? We've gotten to that stage where we are using crude that we are yet to drill and explore to get loans. So let me dump it down, or let me bring it down.
Yeah.
So this is, I sell phones, right? I sell phones, and you are my customer. I supply phones to you, so I need money. So I come and I tell you, borrow me 500K. You're like, yo, but you already owe me money now. You've not paid, and I'm like, you know what? The next time you come to get goods from me, don't worry, just take or borrow me. So we are taking loans using crude that we are yet to refine and drill as collateral. So basically, Nigeria is at that state where we're drilling oil, and it's like it's just going Sarah. There are still, but even within this same administration, right?
Yeah.
He has still gone to apply for loans.
Yes. Yes. So, okay. So let's start with the
Response.
with
Yes.
the crude,
Okay.
the crude oil, and the fact that we're using some of that to get, some loans, and also like, so basically they're called crude for swap agreements.
Okay.
Where you drop crude oil, you collect cash, and then sometimes you might not have even extracted the oil, like what you rightly said, and then we still get the cash ahead, and stuff like that. So basically, some of our crude oil are already locked. Some of our crude oil is locked in
To put it in plain
plain-
English,
yeah, basically
we're
they're
working,
already in.
we're working for vibes and inshallah at this point.
I
That's
don't know
just
about
what
that.
it is, because we've gotten the money
Yeah.
and we've used it,
Yeah.
right? And the fact still remains, sorry for cutting it short,
okay.
and the fact still remains that one of the major problems we have as a country with government
Yeah.
is the lack of that willfulness in cutting costs.
Yes.
So we
That
take
I
these
completely
loans,
agree.
to maintain a lifestyle. You're broke.
Francis is really putting me on the spot.
Do you understand? You're broke. You know you're broke. But you keep taking loans
yes.
to maintain the lifestyle.
Yes.
And when in fact everybody knows you're broke. But you keep taking loans
Yes.
just to live la vida loca. Come on.
So I completely agree with the cost of governance. I also agree with the taking up of loans and all that, and I also agree with the broke part, because whether we like it or not, the money that Nigeria needs to actually function now, most of it is actually outside our borders. We need the amount. We need radical investments in key sectors. In key sectors of the economy. So that's crude oil, oil and gas. We need investment in manufacturing sector, also in investment in agriculture.
Hospitality.
Yes, and hospitality. So there are a lot of sectors that are already even thriving on their own without so much government effort, right? And it's also very important that these sectors do get the government assistance that they need. So, but I'm largely aligned with the fact that we do need to cut the cost of governance. And a very good example is the 2023 supplementary budget that came out at the end of the year. Whether we like it or not, it's so in economics, right? There's in the national budget, you look at it from, we have recurrent expenditure, that's like your day-to-day expenditure, salaries, administrative expenses and things like that. Then you now have capital expenditure, where you see where the government is prioritizing either expenditure on health, education, probably providing schools, roads as well. And over the years, we've always clamored for a more capital intensive budget ahead of a recurrent budget. We didn't see that all through the last 8 years, almost even 10 years of governance. And coming into 2023, towards the end of the year, the supplementary budget, when you look at it on surface, even though the gap is very, it's so minimal, it did create that illusion of we're spending more on capital expenditure ahead of recurrent expenses. And again, what do I mean? Capital expenditure, that is, so you're spending on roads, stuff as
things
against
that
paying
can actually
salaries,
bring in
things
money.
that can actually, yes. And the reason why we advocate for an increase in capital expenditure is because Those are the things that will help unlock the productivity thing I was talking about before. If you have good roads, it reduces logistic costs for businesses, and then they are able to improve their output, expand their operations, employ more people and stuff. But then when you look into the details of that budget, you see things, whether we like it or not, it's not a fun thing to actually say. But when you see things like the president spending, allotting an amount of money for brand new SUVs, refurbishing the
The
state
villa
house,
again,
refurbishing the villa again, refurbishing the office of
the
the.
presidential yacht.
You also look at presidential yachts, and then you look at the fact that the amount of money actually, and I hope I'm getting this correctly. I think the amount of money earmarked for the new SUVs was around, I think, $3 billion,
For
and
which of them now?
no,
Because you
sorry,
know,
3 billion naira. I said
because you know,
dollars.
there's Senate, there's the
There's
House
the
of Reps,
yeah. So under
and let's not
the
even talk about the states.
yeah. So it's actually part of the
So for which of them?
state. You know, it was just state. I think state capital expenditure, something like that,
Oh,
in the budget items.
by state now, are you talking like the what's it called, like Asovilla state kind of
Yes,
thing?
I think so. Yes. So
Okay.
in the you know, when you look at the budget breakdown, so you see things like for the army, for the naval office as well. You see things for police. You see things for road infrastructure. Then you also see things earmarked for like specific states.
So
Then so this state capital thing, it's just one of the budget line items. And I guess the unfortunate thing is that all of these line items, when they are not actually capital expenditures,
okay.
right? They are supposed to be tagged under recurrent expenses, but they were calculated under capital expenditure. So that's one of the reasons why we saw capital expenditure being higher than recurrent expenditure. But in real terms, when you look at national income accounting, it doesn't fly for capital expenditure. So these are the things that I would say give mixed signals, right, to the investors that we're trying to bring in to the economy. So the other, just going back to what you were talking about in terms of about intent, the president's intent with the
And
reforms,
reality.
and then reality of things. So yes, there is still that disconnect. And the truth is that there is an incentive now for the president or for the new administration to be completely different from what we experienced about 8-9 years ago. And the reason is because, like you rightly mentioned, we don't have that lump sum money right now to do as much that we need to do. And the money that we need, like I said before, is outside our borders. We need investors to come.
Hold that thought, yeah.
Yes.
Hold that thought, because what I want to ask you will line with that.
Yes.
Now, you know, when this current administration, you ask them, or you interview them, or you hear them talk in the media, and they say the past administration did that, the past administration did that, and then you forget that Baba Sheyi was yes, I call him Baba Sheyi. Baba Sheyi was so instrumental in bringing in the last administration, backed him up, provided resources, and came out openly to support many, if not all, the policies that were enacted. So if they come out and they say they are blaming the past administration, and they say the past administration did that, that literally means they should be pointing fingers at themselves, because you endorsed,
Yes.
you supported, you financed, you gave your all. So if you're coming now to say, oh, the past administration did that, bro, that's on you. Like, you point, it's like that adage that they say, when you point a finger at someone, where and then the other 5 or the other 4 are pointing back at you.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You know, I think we would have to plan another session where we talk about strictly, we just talk about, we'll look at the budget.
Okay.
Because I have a lot to say, but I want us to still answer that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if we're talking of budget, it was Senator Oshomole, yes, Adams Oshomole, I think a few weeks ago, that I was interviewing, I think the Minister of Ministry of Budget. No, wasn't tourism. Was it tourism?
In Edo State, and flagged about $1 billion.
Bro, for travel. Where you going to?
Was it Switzerland or Netherlands or so?
Yes. So I think we'll have to plan something else where we'll just talk about. Yeah, we'll just talk about budget, because guys, your head go bust. I promise you. But yes, let's go back to the cost of the exchange rate, the change from 783 to 952. What does it mean for young business
Businesses,
people,
yeah.
young guys, trying to just make a living?
Mm.
And some of them have entered into the whole importation business where they shipping things from China, from Asia,
Yes.
Americas, the UK.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Because it's December, yeah. It's meant to be the whole dirty December, and guys are meant to go shop and look good.
Yeah.
And then let's say you had budgeted, let's say maybe 100K before, and like with that 100K, you get at least two outfits, a top and a jean or whatever. But now with this new cost, let's assume that the place you're buying from, his goods just came in like maybe a week
You
ago.
go, yeah.
That means he paid 952 naira
To
as
clear them.
against the
700,
783,
yeah.
which means if you had budgeted 100K to look good this December, Kobosi is not going to work again.
Yeah.
Do you want to say
I
something
think
about that?
I think you've pretty much analyzed it because that's exactly what's just going to happen, right? Price of imported commodities are going to keep increasing, whether food or clothes or appliances or even cars. And this exchange rate for clearing is pretty much even different from the duties attached to imported goods. So there are import duties attached, so meaning that for the fact that you're bringing a good into the country, there is a percentage of that. There's a percentage of the money that you've spent that would still go to customs because, and the reason why those duties exist in an open economy is so that it reduces or it discourages the high level of importation. But in a situation where, like we have in Nigeria today, where we're not able to produce these goods locally, at least produce it enough in large quantity to meet local demand. That's why we're seeing this high level of importation continue. So basically, this will feed into the price of imported goods, and it would also feed into inflation. Nigeria's imported inflation. So imported inflation basically is the inflation you're bringing in from outside the country into the country, and if exchange rates changes also feeds into that imported inflation. So basically, we'll continue to see that feed into the headline inflation and just keep prices higher.
Under the same vein, yeah,
Yeah.
what would be like your projections for, let's say, cost of things now?
Yeah.
Let's use things that our audience will relate to.
Like pasta.
And this is, of course, I'm a foodie, but this is me not endorsing alcohol in any way, but it's December,
Yeah.
where young people
Yeah.
will want to go out and just have a good time and anything. So I'm not going to use that example. Let's use food,
No,
which
we can
is
still even
better.
use it because my advice to you would be sit at home,
Let's
please.
use food. Let's use food because we're somewhere really nice right now.
Yeah.
Where I was just talking to you about how good the ICU is and how I plan to come back in the evening for some. Yeah. Now, if the price is let's say a plate is 6K, right?
Yeah.
What are your projections? Because definitely with all of this, I know they don't import the goods. I know that one, but still, there are
That was
other
going to be my
things.
first question to you.
I know, but
Oh,
there
yeah.
are other things that build up and that makes the cost of
Yes.
maintenance and
Yes,
running the
yes.
business increase. What are your projections in terms of increase in price of things as it were right now?
So let me just go straight to the point and say things are still going to remain expensive.
Okay.
Prices could actually increase a bit more. The reason why I'm saying that is because for the past, I would say, 10 months, we've seen that exchange rate has become the major driver of inflation in Nigeria today. So compared to economic theory where you say money supply, and even though, okay, I need to simplify things, right?
It's fine. I'm
You
getting used
got
to
that?
it,
Okay.
but then
Okay,
yeah, I get
so
it.
so
Yeah.
basically, money supply is total money in circulation as cash that people are spending. So the theory is that the more people have cash to spend, right, there's an increase in demand. So an increase in demand will fuel an increase in prices, because when a supplier says that, oh, people are buying my product, right, the expectation is that, oh, I can make more profit because I have more demand. and so they
Okay.
increase prices. So that's where the theory of an increase in money supply will increase prices. So and and the reason why this came up is, because of the cash scarcity that happened. Do you remember the cash
And it's
scarcity
still
from?
on,
Yeah, and
actually.
it's still
It's
on.
still on
So
right
so
now.
that cash scarcity created an influx of cash into the system. And what happened is because we now had both new notes and old notes in circulation. So that increased that money supply thing I explained earlier, and then fed into price as well. But exchange rate is the major driver, and so that's why I'm
So
saying prices will
my
remain high.
question still stands.
Yes,
Will my plate of 6K
yes, it will
issue
increase.
change to 9K in the coming months? Is
I
that
don't
what
know
you're
about 9K,
saying?
but
I'm
I
just
know that it's
saying.
going to increase.
So
And
it'll
that's, and
keep
like you rightly
increasing,
mentioned,
basically.
yes. And like you rightly mentioned, because of the cost of production for the entity producing the ECAW for you, she will have
Wow.
to pay staff salaries, the
Guys,
staff's
please, I'm family.
production cost, and all
But
of that. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah, prices
I
of things
get you.
will still increase. But speaking on inflation generally
Mm-hmm.
in Nigeria, so because of the petrol subsidy shock and exchange rate shock that we saw that really increased prices this year, in 2024, even though prices will still be high, we're expecting that so this is just a little bit technical. So, but the pace of increase will be slower.
Okay.
So what does this mean? If in 2023 we saw inflation move from 25% to 28% within 3 months, this is an example now. In 2024, we expect that inflation will probably move from 27 from that 28% to maybe 28.5, then 28.9. Do you understand? It would not be as drastic as what we saw in 2023
Okay.
because the economy is starting to adjust to the shocks that we experienced in 2023. So the simple terms is just base effect.
Guys, she went to school, guys. She
What do you
actually
mean?
read.
But I'm hoping that I've
She
explained it.
passed. She didn't buy a result, I promise. So yes,
Oh,
thank you
yeah.
so much. I think we have like just one more thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes, give us your scorecard, right, on the flotation of the naira, because I feel like if I open my mouth and talk, you
So what
understand?
are we been doing all this while?
If I open my mouth and talk, it will
Yeah.
shout cut. So let me let you talk. Yeah.
So yeah,
What's your scorecard basically
for
on the flotation of the naira? If I talk, go on.
don't worry, don't talk. Let me just talk and then we'll close it out.
All
We'll
right,
end it
all right,
here.
all right, all right.
Okay, but yeah, the flotation of the naira, I would say that it's something that was eventually bound to happen because multiple exchange rates, and when I say multiple exchange, I mean there's the official rate, that's the one the CBN publishes. There's the black market rates that you get from your usual Dan Shaki and Co Limited, and then there's one for cargo. There was just so many exchange rates all around, and what that did was it created room for uncertainty with businesses. Businesses were not able to plan because today the exchange rate is they go to the market to get exchange rate for maybe like 780, or they plan with an exchange rate of 780. When it's time to actually make purchases or even export, they're having to plan around 900 or something like that. So eventually what this will do, and by the flotation, what we're saying is bringing everything into just one rate, and then allowing the exchange rate actually trade to its fair value. And what that means is,
Can I ask you a
allow
follow?
me to explain to our viewers first what I mean by it's going towards its fair value, because I'm learning how to keep things simple.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, for it going towards its fair value, just simply meaning that the exchange rate is going to trade at what it's supposed to be trading at. So meaning that there's no money somewhere that is like the CBN is not going to be intervening to keep the exchange rate static, right? Yeah.
So I hate that you're trying to paint me to be the villain
I'm
here.
not painting you
But
as
it's
any
fine.
villain.
I'll take that cross.
You
It's
asked me a
fine.
question, I
I will
answer.
own it because me, I have a follow up.
I thought we're ending it here.
So yes, so it's still the same. It's more of a pun question,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So what was the goal? What was CBN? When they banned Aboki FX, when they said Aboki FX, they were the
Of
cause
course.
of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
and they banned them, and the dollar kept rising. Can you, as an
So I
economist,
think that's just a simple case of trying to deal with the symptoms of an illness rather than dealing with the issue itself of what actually caused it. So, at the time, I would say the CBN was in an elusive phase where
Can
we
you
just
break
tried
down that
to.
elusive?
Okay, so
Sorry.
elusive phase is
Uh-huh.
like, but that's not even like economic English now.
Shall break it
So
down. God
okay, it
bless
was
you.
more of like
Mm-hmm.
for okay, how do I break this down? So I would say there were things that were affecting the exchange rate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when we say capital control measures, it was like the FX ban on imported items. CBN at the time was not selling dollars to a certain amount of a certain class of individuals or businesses that were trying to get FX at the official market. The official market was also closed to certain businesses. So there were just a lot of issues, around it. There was also the issues with like repatriation. So what that means is like a multinational now that has like a parent company abroad and has a subsidiary here in Nigeria. So if the parent company gives you some hard currency, maybe it gives you like $10 billion
Yeah.
as capital to start off, you're supposed to return
Send
that
money
same.
back.
So, but the CBN at the time would block some of these funds. You can't take
Yeah.
the full $10 billion out of the country.
And it's one
So
of the
yeah,
things that
yeah.
Emirates Airline had. One of the
Airlines,
issues that
exactly,
they had.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
even as
remember
of
that as
today,
well.
Nigeria still has the highest amount of blocked international airline funds globally. So basically, the point is, so those were the issues that these companies were experiencing. That's what I mean by like the elusive phase. So these are the things that the CBN was doing at the time, and meanwhile they were attacks talking about speculative attacks. You're talking about a black market, and the truth of the matter is when there is a functioning official market for exchange rates, what that means is as an individual, you can actually go to your commercial bank, go to any commercial bank, say you want to get dollars. You don't have to go to any Dansaki and Co Limited to get dollars.
You need
If
to
it
tell
was
me
that
what
easy,
Dansaki did
I don't even know
to.
where I got that name from, to be honest. It just came. But point is, we all know the Danshakis
Okay, okay. Because,
I'm talking about, but like the BDCs basically. So, but the CBN at the time was just attacking. They were going at the wrong people, because everybody was getting dollars at that rate. Actually, nobody
okay.
was really getting at the official rate. So, how did them publicizing it become a
One more
problem?
follow
Yeah.
up to literally let's just break the table. Everybody will rest. You
Oh my
understand?
God.
One more follow up.
Okay.
So you mentioned something about Nigeria being one of the countries that
Yeah, the block funds.
literally, let me put it in plain English. People's money, we are holding it. They can't send it out. It's
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
And this administration is all for making Nigeria look attractive
Yeah,
enough
for
for new
businesses.
investors to come in and put in money. So how can they come in and put in money when the money that they are coming to put and make, there's no sure way of sending it out?
Yeah. I mean,
Because that's a big problem.
yes, it is a very big problem. I think the important thing here is us actually seeing the CBN do what it says. Because and I'll say this because I'm an economist, right? We try to always look for we try not to be prophets of doom and gloom. I think I said it at the beginning. So and the reason is because we literally help to provide foresight as to how things are eventually going to look like. And one of the things that I would say the new CBN governor, even though it hasn't been very upfront about it, is some of this commitments to saying, okay, we're planning to address this. This is what we're going to address, but we haven't heard the how and when. So that's where the question marks are. But a good thing is we have the first MPC meeting. That by MPC I mean the Monetary Policy Committee meeting
Okay.
in January next year. So I guess that is one avenue for us to be able to hear how the CBN intends to address some of these problems that have been lingering behind closed doors. Not even behind closed doors, because he did say it at the Chartered Institute of Bankers Association of Nigeria. They had a forum and he gave a speech there and did mention that, okay, they had already started clearing some of their FX backlogs. About 31 banks have already been cleared, even though up till now, we still don't know how much that FX backlog is. So the estimates go around like 6 billion to about 9 billion. Some estimates are about 10 billion. We still don't know. So we don't even know how significant significant clearing 31 banks is. So basically what we're saying is that or what I'm saying is there is commitment from the CBN to actually correct some of these measures. And a good pointer to it is the slow return. I'm going to use a technical term now, but I would break it down. Is a slow return to monetary policy orthodoxy. Now, what is
Sorry.
monetary policy orthodoxy?
Jesus.
So, what does that mean?
Okay.
In simple terms, monetary policy is addressing price stability, making sure that prices are stable, and this is in form of commodity prices and exchange rates.
Okay.
And the tools available for the CBN to do that is things like interest rates, so either increasing interest rates or increasing yields, that's interest rates still on maybe like government bonds, just in order to mop up, to reduce money supply. So basically, that is monetary policy orthodoxy, right? So when you're actually using the correct tools to address inflation or address exchange rate instability. So that's what we mean by monetary policy orthodoxy. But over the past 8 to 10 years, I remember I gave that context at the beginning of our conversation, that everything we're seeing today is just fruits of what has been in the past 8 to 10 years. Like all the skeletons in Nigeria's cupboard is coming out right now, and not all, but at least it's coming out small. Don't that finger, don't drop it. but then,
and I pointed out that let's not do the blame game of the past administration.
I know you did say that, but
this current administration funded, supported, backed all of the policies of the last administration.
See, on a political
so they're
level,
the same.
It does make sense, and I align completely.
Okay.
What I'm saying is the bad policies from before, because as an economist, I cannot, even though I am not going to try to take things in isolation or maybe put everything in the same bracket.
Okay.
We still have to look at things to an extent in silos. I just contradicted myself right now. But what I'm trying to say basically is that even though we try to look at things holistically, right, from an economic standpoint, you still have to also look at things in silos, right? Take an administration, look at this was the Buhari Emefiele administration. This is the Tinubu Cardoso administration. Are there any parallels to draw? Are there any similarities? So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Explaining to you that where we're coming from in terms of monetary policy, it was strictly monetary policy on orthodoxy. So things like the capital control measures I explained earlier before, things like blocked funds, things like cancelling out. There's a standard deposit facility that banks are able to collect money from the CBN. That was cancelled. All of these alterations were happening behind the scenes, and that's why I said it was more of like the CBN trying to address symptoms, not actually treating the root cause of the issue. So right now it's more of like things are looking different, because we're seeing the CBN actually increase interest rates on treasury bill yields in line with the fact that the MPR, which is the monetary policy rate, has also increased. So an example is this: in the next MPC meeting, you can just keep your ears down for it. So if you hear maybe the MPR, you hear the CBN governor probably say, oh, the MPR, which is the monetary policy rate, is probably increased from maybe 18.5%, maybe 19%. This is an hypothetical example now. So what that is just simply explaining to you is that while increasing interest rates on all forms of government securities in Nigeria. So over time, it had not translated into an increase in maybe like treasury bills, if you want to invest, or government bonds. But we're seeing that now take a different shape. We're seeing those yields increase. So that's
thank you.
I'm explaining it to you. I'm just explaining it to you. But you understand what I'm saying?
You just took me to class again.
But did you understand what I explained?
As best as I could.
Okay. We're returning to monetary policy.
Anyways, guys, so basically the essence of conversations like this is born out of love for our country. Truth is, there's only one Nigeria. You can jabber, but even when you're there, there's no place like home. The best we can do is work collectively to find a way of making Nigeria habitable, making Nigeria safe for all of us. And so, yes, elections have consequences. If you're 18, or you will be 18, you do not need to wait for the next 4 years or to the next election cycle to go get your voter's card and say, oh, that's when you want to start hustling your voters card, because there will be delays. Chances of you ending up not getting it are very high. Start now. Elections have consequences. When you vote in the right person, according to your conscience, based on who you feel works, you can hold them responsible. We can only hold government responsible when we all come out. You do not have the moral ground to come and chastise government when you didn't vote. This is a personal opinion. You have more power to speak when you've gone through the process. You have your voter's card. You voted. It's like you being a taxpayer. Government comes and they're doing anyhow. You come and be like, no, you can't do this. You're living off of my tax. So elections have consequences. Don't wait till the next election cycle. We already know 2024 Edo elections is around the corner. We have Ondo State. I think we just rounded up the one for Bayelsa. Do not wait till it's just a few weeks to the time or a few months. Go get your PVC now. Go get your voters card now. Join a political party if possible, because we as young people, the only way Nigeria can work is when we stop speculating, is when we stop talking behind closed doors and calling them, oh, these men, these are our fathers, our mothers. Be the change you want to see. We'll keep updating you on things that happen in the political space. It's always a pleasure having you guys here. My name is Francis. I do research and I write for You'd Be Involved. And we've had the beautiful and the very, very schooly and the professor, Dumebi Oduwole, Jesuluoba. Hey, yeah, a wonderful somebody. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
always a pleasure. We'll work on having you come back again so we can talk about the budget,
Budget,
because
yeah.
I feel like it will trigger me.
Just understand that I'm an economist.
Mm.
Whenever I say some of these things, and trust me, by that time I would
Don't
learn
worry.
or prepare to
I have,
simplify things.
I have plenty water. So when you're talking, I'll just be drinking water. I
And
think
if
that's
and you can always take me back. If
Mhm.
maybe I'm explaining something you don't really understand or you think it's not going to
Yeah.
be clear, please just always take me back. I'm happy to
That's
simplify
alright.
things
That's
to the best
alright.
of my ability.
And guys, I think you guys can even make suggestions of next topics you'd want us to talk around the political, area. Of course, you'd be involved. It's a platform, an initiative that was born out of the need to get young people involved and interested in politics. Like, enough of things are bad, things are bad. These politicians are doing this, our leaders are doing that. Enough of all the complaints. It's time to act, it's time to be involved, and that is why we're here. Thank you so much for joining this session. Till we see you next time. God bless you. Bye.
Bye.